All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a wild story that kicks off with a massive financial showdown and ends up somewhere totally unexpected, the world of crypto. So, based on a recent interview, we're going to break down how Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump claim they got pushed out of the traditional banking system and were forced to find a whole new way to fight back. Right out of the gate, you can feel the pressure. This quote from Eric Trump makes it incredibly clear what they felt they were up against. This wasn't just some business dispute. He's describing what he saw as a direct attempt to completely wipe their company off the map. So what was this attack they're talking about? Well, the term they use over and over is political debanking. They're basically alleging that major banks just decided one day to cut them off, to kick them out of the financial system entirely. And the scale of this was just huge. According to Eric Trump, we're not talking about one or two accounts here. He says he gets a letter from Capital one morning telling they're shutting down 300 of their bank accounts. And these weren't just random accounts. He says they were for their golf courses, their hotels, real operating businesses. And it wasn't some small regional bank either. They're pointing the finger at two of the absolute biggest names in American finance, Capital One and JP Morgan Chase. By naming them, they're arguing this was a coordinated move coming from the very top of the financial world. And here's the absolute kicker. They insist this had nothing to do with their company's finances or any kind of risk. They say this was purely 100% because the banks didn't agree with their father's politics. You see what he's doing here, right? Donald Trump Jr. throws out this question to make it about something much bigger. The idea is, hey, if a family with our name and our resources can get targeted like this, what chance does the average person have? It turns their personal battle into a potential threat for everyone. So with their backs against the wall, this pressure, they claim, forced them to make a pivot they never, ever saw coming. It pushed them out of the world they knew and straight into the world of digital assets. They call themselves hard asset people. And think about what that means. These guys build things, physical things, concrete, steel, real estate you can actually touch. It just goes to show how insane of a shift it was for them to suddenly go all in on the intangible world of crypto and blockchain. And this is where the story gets a crazy twist. Eric Trump basically says, look, the very people who tried to shut us down are the reason we're here. In his view, they accidentally pushed them toward what they now believe is the entire future of finance. You just can't make this stuff up. Building on that irony, Don Jr. frames this whole crypto venture as their counterattack. He says the people who wanted them to just go away ended up creating their own worst enemy, a new force that's now pushing for a system that could challenge the very banks that kicked them out. Okay, so this whole experience didn't just give them a new business to run. It basically handed them a whole new philosophy. So let's look at their case for why this new decentralized system isn't just their backup plan, but why they think it's a better model for all of us. And here's how they break it down. They say old school banking is slow. I mean, you can't even send a wire after 5 p.m. on a Friday, right? And it's all set up to help the big guys. But decentralized finance, or DeFi, they argue, is the opposite. It's instant, it's transparent, and it's built to actually help the little guy by making everything faster and cheaper. That all sounds good on paper, but what does it really mean? How does all this digital tech actually apply to the hard asset world of building actual buildings? Well, they explain it with this idea called tokenization. Let's just walk through it. Imagine, instead of begging a few giant banks for a massive loan to build a hotel, you could just split the ownership of that hotel into thousands of little digital pieces, or tokens. Then you could sell those tokens to everyday people. Someone could invest $100 and own a tiny piece of a huge hotel. They'd become a partner. That was pretty much impossible for the average person before. So when you boil it all down, the big mission here, as they state it, is to completely break down the walls that have kept regular folks out of major investments. They want to create what they call a democracy of finance. And, this isn't just about giving more people access to investments. They frame this as being part of a much, much bigger global fight for who's going to be the economic and tech leader of the future. They point to the world economy, right? You've got the US with a GDP of about 33 trillion, China at 23 trillion. Their whole argument is that America's #1 spot comes from having the best financial markets in the world. And to keep that lead, they say the US has to win the race on financial tech, like crypto, otherwise we risk falling behind. So this all leads to a pretty clear political playbook. This isn't just business for them, it's an agenda. They want to use crypto to stop financial targeting, use things like stablecoins to make the US dollar even stronger globally, and This is the big one. Get clear, solid rules for crypto written into American law. Which brings up the final, really important question. It's not just about what's happening today. What's the real long-term goal they're shooting for here? And honestly, this quote from Don Jr. says it all. For them, the biggest risk is that any progress they make could just be wiped away with the stroke of a pen by the next administration. So their endgame is to get these new financial rules baked so deeply into the law that they can't be easily undone, no matter who's in charge. It's really a fight for a permanent change to the system itself.